The last time this happened, Tesla stock bounced the very next day. And considering Tesla is up 0.7% in after hours, history could repeat itself. What I'm referring to here is Tesla's RSI. Almost every time, like magic, when you get oversold, Tesla stock bounces and goes through rallies. Sometimes they are massive rallies, sometimes they are smaller rallies. And I mean, like a small rally in Tesla is like 10%, 15%. Sometimes they're huge rallies. We'll talk about that throughout this video. But almost every single time you hit 30 on the RSI, you bounce. And that happened today. The last time this happened, in fact, was not long ago. Tesla hit oversold on February 11th, 2025. Literally 2 weeks ago. Not even 2 full weeks ago. And, well, I guess technically exactly 2 full weeks ago. You rallied about 13.5%. You went from $325 per share up to almost $370 per share. Here in this video, I will share with you what could be coming next for Tesla. Why I'm actually very bullish right now, which I know if you guys watch the channel, that's probably not a huge surprise, but Wall Street's just not paying attention. I mean, if they don't want to pay attention, they want me to make all the money, that's fine. I'm cool with that. I will share with you the trade that I made today on Tesla. In fact, I did buy Tesla for the first time in a couple of months, since at least before the election. And I did go out and bought some Tesla stock today. And I also made an options trade that I will share with you as well here in this video. Obviously, options are risky. You can lose all of your money. 80% of them expire worthless. If you've never traded options before, go read a book, do some research, because options are definitely not for everyone, and you should not just blindly follow someone you see on the internet. But just to give you a reference of kind of what I expect could happen for Tesla, I will share that trade with you. And finally, we will talk about the earnings coming tomorrow from Nvidia, which is our big catalyst. Even for Tesla stock, this is a massive catalyst. And the data that we will get over the next 48 hours that will move markets. In the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys want to come join the trading community, check out that link down below in the description of this video, as well as hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. It's free 99, costs you nothing, and it helps push this video and all of these videos really out to more people, which at this point, they could use the clarity on Tesla stock. So first and foremost, before we get into the big catalyst coming for Tesla, my expectations, my option trade on Tesla, and some of the news that came out in after hours, we're going to look at the option activity, what the shorts are doing. Like literally everything you need to know will be provided in this video. But there was a couple things that negatively affected Tesla and the broader markets today. Now, first and foremost, there was some fake news, and I call it fake news. It's not, it's real, but it's really just out of context. And if you guys watched the last video, you already know this, but Yahoo Finance and all of these various media outlets started pressing this headline out there, which is really just nonsensical. That Tesla's sales sank 45% in Europe as quote-unquote rival offerings and Musk blowback hit demand. Like anyone gives a rat's ass what Elon is doing in Europe. Come on. Let's be honest. Nobody gives a shit what Elon is doing. Average people agree with what Elon is doing. Hence, we got the Doge shirt on. I mean, it's common sense. Do you want your... It'd be like someone stealing your money and giving it all away, and you can't pay rent or you can't support your family. And they're like, well, it went for a good cause. Okay, yes, the way they're doing it is a little harsh. It should have been done a long time ago. We get it, not to get political, but there's no issue with the Tesla brand. That is fugazi, that's fake, that's not real. At the same time, overall EV sales jumped 37.3% in the EU. So people are saying, oh my gosh, this is such a Tesla problem. And even people, you know, like Gene Munster that are bullish on Tesla say, you know, something similar. That the expectations for deliveries are too high, that Tesla stock will continue to fall based on this, and it's essentially hard to tell how much brand destruction Musk is doing, and Musk is not at Tesla, right? We're worried with Doge, blah, 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 blah. None of that stuff really matters. I commented and said, Gene, this would be like giving Apple grief because iPhone sales slowed down 4 weeks before a new iPhone launch. People are waiting for a Model Y. Deliveries will massively accelerate in the coming weeks. And there was actual proof to this today. Like, this is not just my speculation. Okay, you can see over in China, the Model Y consistently outsells the Model 3, like night and day difference. Okay, the Model 3 is doing very well right now. Like, it's fine, but there's almost no sales for the Model Y. Why is that? Did everyone just start hating the Model Y and they feel the same about the Model 3? No, they're waiting for the new Model Y. So these headlines are ultimately a buying opportunity, a massive buying opportunity. That is part of what happened today for Tesla. And that's really why Tesla was down 8%. But the rest of the markets were also in a pretty bad place. We've had a series of economic data sets that have come out over the past week or so, 2 weeks really, that show the economy is weakening, that we are going through some kind of soft patch. Consumer confidence is falling, and that's kind of pushing some investors to say, how much weakness are we going to get? Because after all, a recession's really a confidence issue. If people don't have confidence, if they don't know if they're going to keep their job, they stop spending as much, companies stop bringing in as much revenue, they start firing people. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So when you do have these confidence issues, then that can turn into a real problem for the economy. And we did get the CB consumer confidence today that plummeted to levels we have not seen since April of 2024, the lowest levels we have seen in over a year. Okay. And again, it's about the trajectory of this. It's plummeting, okay? That's not good. But, you know, is it the end of the world? Way too soon to say that. Way too soon to see that. We've also had, you know, other data sets recently that have showed the economy is weakening. Walmart gave bad guidance. Home Depot gave bad guidance. Amazon gave pretty bad guidance when they reported earnings for at least their, you know, Amazon, you know, retailer business. Also at the same time, over the past couple of days, we did get the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Survey that showed inflation expectations on the 1 and the 5 year ahead period are also skyrocketing. 5-year inflation expectations have not been this high since 1995. I mean, even when CPI on the headline was 9% in 2022, you didn't have inflation expectations this high. We all know, sophisticated investors know, that's really just political. It's mainstream media pushing tariff headlines, that tariffs are going to raise prices. Democrats expect hyperinflation, Republicans expect no inflation, and independents are like 3% inflation expectations. We know this, but as a collective, you're getting weakening economic data, inflation concerns, and inflation, you know, our PCE report we're expecting this Friday is expected to rise from last month. So you're kind of getting this stagnation, you know, kind of environment that would not be good for stocks. And stagflation is when the economy slows down, but you also have high inflation. It's like the worst case scenario because the Fed can't accommodate too much because you have an inflation problem and you're kind of just handicapped to that. And that has really been a big drag on markets. You've had secondary, you know, comments as well from like Trump on tariffs that Canadian and Mexico tariffs are going to still be going into effect. That has not been a great, headline. You've also gotten news recently that Microsoft is canceling hundreds of megawatts worth of data center leases. They went out and rebuked that and said, we may shift around investments, but we're still going to invest $80 billion this year. So there's a lot of uncertainty. Nobody really knows what to position for. We don't even know if, the economy is just weakening a little bit, if it's still strong. We don't know if the economy's crashing. Like, there's a lot of uncertainty because we don't have enough information. When you mix all of this together with really just like manipulative headlines around Tesla, headlines that are really out of context, you have high inflation expectations, you have a weakening economy, you have a tariff situation going on, you have Tesla's deliveries, again, down 45%. You have growth concerns, and the Fed is still nauseously neutral. Like, they're not saying they're in a rush to cut rates anytime soon. Mix this all together, really bad setup for an AI/car company like Tesla. I mean, autos do the worst during recessions. Like, the last place you want to be invested during a recession is in a car company, right? They do bad. The last real recession we had, GM went bankrupt, Stellantis went bankrupt, Ford barely survived, Tesla barely survived, okay? We all know Tesla's an AI company, but again, mixed fears of brand destruction, and Elon's not the CEO anymore, blah, blah, blah. He's at Doge, and, well, thoughts of a recession, and boom, you get Tesla that's down almost 40% from all-time highs. Now, it does come a time in which you just get so oversold, Tesla stock bounces. And that's usually right at that oversold level, that 30 level on the RSI. You are at 28.87. So if history repeats itself, we should bounce tomorrow. If not, the next day, right? Before Friday, we should be firmly in a bounce. That does not have to happen. That's not a guarantee. We don't know what's going to happen. But that is what historically happens unless you truly have a crisis on your hands. Like when Elon was selling Tesla to buy Twitter, right? Everyone thought we were going into recession. Elon was selling Tesla. He was focused on Twitter at the time, right? You kind of see how these things just go back to back. History tends to repeat itself. And you did not exactly bounce when you were oversold in the RSI. You did briefly. For one day, you went up 0.5%. You proceeded to fall. So if the growth concerns continue on, Nvidia misses or something, then forget the bounce for now. But you should bounce soon. And I would target a level around that 325 to 380 level, just judging off of where some of the recent support resistance has been, as well as that 20-day moving average around 362. If we could retake that to the upside, you could see around that 380 level pretty reasonably. Now, again, last time we bounced at the oversold level on the RSI was on February 11th. You rallied 13.5%. If we were to do that identical move, you would go to about 345 or so, give or take. And I have to say, I'm actually pretty damn optimistic, given our big catalyst tomorrow, which is Nvidia. Now, normally I'm not super bullish on Nvidia earnings because Nvidia, they do the typical Nvidia earnings like every time now. It's pretty well televised. They beat and they raise by like $2 billion beat. They raise by $1 billion or $2 billion. Wall Street, whether they like that or not, I think comes down to sentiment and how overcrowded the trade is. If everyone's bullish heading into the print, odds are the stock's going to do nothing or fall a little bit. Now, I think a lot of people are bearish heading into the print. Not necessarily on Nvidia, I wouldn't say, but they're kind of bearish on the whole AI trade and just doubting how long CapEx is going to remain, as high as it is. Given that negative overall sentiment we've seen, obviously, markets the last couple of days, I think you're in a better position to obviously beat and raise from Nvidia's part, but have that positively reinvigorate the AI space again. And obviously, there's no guarantees. I don't know exactly what Nvidia is going to say or what the numbers are going to look like, but I would be shocked if they don't beat and raise again. If they just beat and don't raise guidance, that would catch everyone by surprise, and you would see a lot more downside for markets. I mean, people would jump to conclusions like you have not seen in 2 or 3 years. They would say the AI trade is dead. Everything would get beaten down. So that is the absolute worst case scenario, is if Nvidia, were to miss or not raise or something along those lines. And although I don't think that's going to happen, it is a possibility that we have to acknowledge. Now, here on the day today, we did have about 1,200 different option orders in Tesla stock, totaling $825 million, with a positive order value of 55%. It was not as bullish as what we are used to seeing, but overall, for the stock being down 8%, at one point was down 10%, that is not a bad day at all. Now, there are some final numbers coming in now. It looks like you have borrowed shares of 3.51 million, return shares of 1.8 million. That means about 1.7 million shares potentially were sold short today. Doesn't really matter. We've seen millions of shares that have been covered in Tesla in the last 2 weeks or so, and that official short interest report that we get on Friday is likely to show a new all-time low for short interest. Why that's important? Because hedge funds and institutions, if they're covering on short positions, they're not that worried about their long Tesla positions, right? They're not that worried about Tesla continuing to sell off. And I think that's important context, because while I see retail investors that are really bearish, hedge funds and institutions are not. They're in fact the most bullish I've seen, like, ever. Never before has the short interest been this low. Now, we don't have much for economic data coming out tomorrow morning. It's actually the slowest day of this week is tomorrow morning. Fed Barkin speaks at 8:30 in the morning, and you have new home sales for January and new home sales month over month that come out at 10 a.m. At 1 p.m., you have a 7-year bond auction. That's going to be important for the bonds. Bonds kind of went crazy today. Yields plummeted. Again, growth concerns. You also seen oil fall 2%. Again, growth concerns. And you did see a sell-off in, relative safer assets like gold, which really is kind of showing the level of fear out there in markets. And again, one reason I'm actually so bullish on Nvidia earnings and why I think that could actually be, a big catalyst for markets. Now, coming Thursday morning, you will get durable goods orders month over month and the GDP growth rate, initial jobless claims, consumer spending, pending home sales month over month, year over year, Kansas Fed composite and manufacturing indexes, Fed Bowman that will speak, Fed Hammock, Fed Harker, a couple other smaller catalysts. And then even on Friday, you have your PCE, you have personal income, personal spending, Chicago PMIs, wholesale inventories, advanced trades data, all kinds of different things. So tomorrow, really enjoy it. Just not having a data overload to go through as soon as we start the trading day. I did go out and bought 10 more shares of Tesla today at 305. And as the stock continues lower, if it does continue lower, I will continue to buy. But this is my first buy since at least before the election. So we just accumulated a large position, wrote it up, and now you're coming back down to 300. At one point it was in the 290s. Yeah, I'm going to take that opportunity to buy because nothing has changed with Tesla's business. The only difference is the stock price is lower. And whenever the stock price is lower, almost 40% below all-time highs, and the business has actually gotten better, not worse. Not financial advice, but it's probably a wise idea to consider adding to a position if you were already bullish on that stock. Again, if nothing changes, a lot of the time stocks can fall 30%, and there is a material change, lower guidance or CEO leaves or something else, we've only gotten good news for Tesla. Like this whole 40% delivery slump in January, like that's not bad news. There's nothing to that. And the fact mainstream media pushes that just tells you how much they just really hate Elon. Now, the trade that I made with options today, relatively small. There's a lot of volatility, big catalyst. A small amount can go a long way if you are correct. I bought these 370 calls, very short term, for $65 a piece. Spent like $300 some change, up 14%. They were up a little bit more than that. They were up over 20%. Stock was kind of volatile there towards the end of the trading day, but these are only until next week. So these are March 7th. And again, history shows whenever Tesla gets this oversold, the stock tends to bounce. And that's essentially what this is playing here. But again, very risky. Do not trade that. You could lose all of your money. But if Nvidia earnings come in good tomorrow, I think you're going to see momentum come back. I think you're going to see specifically AI come back. A lot of your data centers like Applied Digital and Nebius that have just gotten absolutely destroyed are going to start coming back. Okay. And I think Tesla is very much included in that. I mean, Tesla launched FSD in China today and the stock was down 8%. Get fucking real right now. Tesla should have been green today, and very green today at that. So I have to take advantage of that. And I think in the short term, there is a trade to be had when Wall Street is this fearful and this irrational, right? They're letting emotions get the best of them. And if you can just see through the noise and look at it for what it really is, I mean, I'm sure you are. I'm sure that's why you're watching this video, and you are probably bullish. I mean, there's a lot to be bullish on, and Wall Street just does not seem to understand that. In the news today as well, Lucid reported Q4 earnings of revenue $234 million, up 49% year over year. Company had a net loss of $397.2 million in the quarter compared to $653 million net loss in Q4 2023. Lucid expects to deliver about 20,000 vehicles in 2025. Peter Rawlinson, after making hundreds of millions of dollars by falsely, pumping Lucid and making false statements, is stepping down as Lucid CEO. Sorry, I just had to throw all that in there. He will transition to the role of strategic technical advisor to the chairman of the board. Let me know what you think about this information down below in the comments section. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.